The Rifleman, 1958 to 1963, remains one of the most beloved television shows of all time, captivating generations with its gripping stories and unforgettable characters. But behind the scenes of this iconic Western series lies a darker, more tragic reality, one filled with unexpected misfortunes and heartbreaking endings that no one could have foreseen. While the show depicted courage, justice, and the strength of family, the real lives of many of its talented cast members took a very different turn. Some were struck down by sudden accidents, others endured long, painful battles with illness, and a few met untimely deaths that shocked fans and left behind a lingering sorrow. In this video, we'll uncover the real-life tragedies that haunted the stars of The Rifleman. From devastating losses to shocking twists of fate, these stories reveal the hidden pain behind the fame, and remind us that even those who brought joy to millions were not spared from the cruelty of life. Get ready to discover the heartbreaking and often surprising truths about the stars who helped shape one of TV's most iconic shows. Joan Taylor, 1929 to 2012. Joan Taylor's life was a tapestry of beauty, talent, and quiet sorrow. She portrayed Millie Scott, sometimes credited as Millie Scott, in The Rifleman, the sweet-natured store owner who brought a gentle charm to North Fork and briefly stirred romantic feelings in the widowed Lucas McCain. Born Rose Marie Emma, Joan's early life was shaped by an intense passion for the arts instilled by her Italian mother and Austrian father, a Hollywood prop man. Trained at the Pasadena Playhouse, she graced the screen in classics like Earth vs. the Flying Saucers, 1956, and War Drums, 1957, blending strength and vulnerability in each role. Despite her radiant on-screen presence, Joan endured deep private heartache. Her marriage to producer Leonard Freeman, creator of Hawaii Five-0, eventually crumbled under the weight of professional strain and emotional distance. She stepped away from acting to focus on her family, but the years brought increasing isolation. After Leonard's untimely death in 1974, she never remarried. Her later years were spent in seclusion, grappling with health issues and a longing for a time long gone. Joan died of natural causes in 2012, in Santa Monica. Her death was quiet, almost unnoticed, like the fading light of an old Hollywood star whose glow was once everything. Chuck Connors, born April 10, 1921, was a towering presence both on and off screen, immortalized in American television history as Lucas McCain, the stoic and principled sharpshooter in The Rifleman. Before Hollywood, he was a professional athlete, one of the rare few to play both Major League Baseball and NBA basketball. But while his public image radiated strength and determination, his private life was shadowed by loneliness and the emotional toll of a fractured family. Connors was married 3 times, yet none of those relationships endured. His first marriage to Elizabeth Riddell produced 4 sons, but the marriage crumbled under the pressure of Connors' rising fame and long absences. He remained estranged from much of his family for years, and despite his success, he never truly found the lasting companionship he longed for. His towering figure and deep voice masked a man haunted by regret. Chuck died on November 10, 1992, at the age of 71, from lung cancer and pneumonia. A lifelong smoker, his powerful voice and commanding presence were ultimately silenced by the very habit that had become a part of his on-screen persona. In the final months, he reportedly spoke often of wasted time and what could have been, a quiet echo of sorrow that lingered long after his last breath. Harlan Ward, 1917 to 1980. With a face marked by calm authority, Harlan Ward lent stoic grace to the character of John Hamilton, the town's banker in The Rifleman, a role he carried with dignified restraint. Born in Los Angeles, Ward became a frequent fixture of 1950s and 60s television, often cast as doctors, judges, and military officers, men of moral clarity. His film credits included The Fountainhead, 1949, The Big Heat, 1953, and The Sniper, 1952, where his quiet presence offered a grounding counterbalance to more volatile characters. Yet behind that composed demeanor, Harlan's own life held its share of unspoken anguish. Though he maintained a strict privacy about his personal affairs, those close to him spoke of loneliness that dogged his later years, estranged relationships and an absence of close family ties that left him adrift. As television moved on from the steady hands of character actors like him, Ward found fewer roles, and his retreat from the industry mirrored a deepening melancholy. He died of cancer in 1980 at the age of 62. There were no grand tributes, no headlines, just a quiet passing, almost like his characters, dignified, underappreciated, and mournfully human. Johnny Crawford, born March 26, 1946, brought a rare, tender innocence to the role of Mark McCain, the loyal and kind-hearted son of Lucas McCain in The Rifleman. At just 12 years old, Johnny lit up the screen with a sincerity and emotional depth that captured America's heart. A child star raised in the glimmer of 1950s Hollywood, he grew up too fast in an industry that so often forgets its young. Though he continued acting into adulthood, appearing in films like Indian Paint and shows such as Hawaii Five-0 and The Big Valley, Johnny's career never again reached the heights of his early fame. Behind his charming smile and gentle demeanor, he struggled with the weight of fading stardom and the silent isolation that followed. His marriage to Charlotte Samko, a high school sweetheart he reunited with decades later, offered a late-in-life spark of joy, but by then, time had already begun to erase much of who he once was. In his final years, Johnny battled Alzheimer's disease, a cruel thief of memory and identity, leaving the boy who once stole the hearts of millions slowly disappearing even to himself. He passed away on April 29, 2021, at age 75, after also contracting COVID-19 in the midst of his decline. Friends and fans mourned the loss of not just a beloved actor, but of a gentle soul swallowed by a slow and devastating goodbye. Hope Summers, 1902 to 1979. In the warm and familiar figure of Hattie Denton, the kind-hearted general store owner in The Rifleman, audiences found comfort, and in Hope Summers, they found a woman whose real life was steeped in quiet endurance. Born in Illinois, Hope was the daughter of a Methodist minister, raised with strong values and a stoic disposition that would later shape her understated yet memorable performances. Her career blossomed unusually late. She became best known not only for her work in The Rifleman but also as Clara Edwards in The Andy Griffith Show, bringing life to small-town characters with subtlety and compassion. Despite her success, Hope never married, and some whispered it was because of a heartbreak early in life, a love that ended before it could begin, leaving her emotionally solitary. Off-screen, she lived modestly, surrounded by books and fading photographs, often speaking of bygone days with a longing that betrayed her poised public persona. In 1979, she died of heart failure in Woodland Hills, California, in a care facility that knew little of the gentle stardom she once embodied. Her death was as quiet as her life had been, a slow extinguishing of a flame that had burned for others but never truly for herself. Ralph Moody, 1886 to 1971. Ralph Moody, born in St. Louis in the 19th century, was a man of many faces: Doc Burridge, Eben Mukin, and others in The Rifleman, each role infused with a world-weary wisdom and gravel-voiced sincerity that only a life of hardship could provide. Before the cameras, Ralph's journey was one of grit. He spent decades in vaudeville and on stage, struggling in obscurity until Hollywood called late in his life. He found his niche playing kindly but worn-down old men in series like Gunsmoke, Bonanza, and The Twilight Zone, characters that reflected the long, often lonely path he'd walked. His personal life, however, was marked by a series of heartbreaks. A brief, unhappy marriage ended in silence, and his only son died young in a car crash, a loss from which Ralph never truly recovered. He kept a photo of the boy in his dressing room, a private shrine to the life that might have been. As work slowed in the late 1960s, Ralph slipped into increasing solitude, plagued by declining health and fading memories. He passed away in 1971, just shy of his 85th birthday, in a home for the aged, with no family at his side. His final years were filled with the echoes of applause long since faded, one more character actor, forgotten by time, who had once held the heart of America in his weathered hands. Paul Fix, born March 13, 1901. Paul Fix's weathered face and deep, steady voice brought depth to Micah Torrance, the recovering alcoholic turned marshal and trusted friend of Lucas McCain in The Rifleman. A man of enduring presence in the golden age of television and film, Fix appeared in over 300 productions, often typecast as the grizzled lawman, the somber judge, or the wise town elder. Notably, he played the doctor in To Kill a Mockingbird, 1962, a rare instance where his gentleness outshone his grit. Off-screen, Paul's personal life was marked by silence and solitude. Though married to Frances Harvey for decades, their relationship was more of a quiet arrangement than a love story, particularly after the tragic passing of their only daughter Marilyn, whose death from a long illness cast a permanent shadow over his final years. As he aged, Alzheimer's crept into his mind, robbing him of his memories, his stories, and eventually, his ability to recognize even his closest friends. Paul Fix died on October 14, 1983, in Los Angeles, not with applause, but in quiet obscurity, an echo of the lawman he used to portray, stoic, uncelebrated, but always standing firm. Bill Quinn, born May 6, 1912. In a world that often forgets its supporting characters, Bill Quinn was the embodiment of the quiet man in the corner, the loyal bartender Frank Sweeney in The Rifleman, pouring wisdom as much as whiskey. Quinn's career stretched over 7 decades, his face familiar but rarely named, a character actor's fate. He appeared in Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, 1989, as McCoy's father, a rare late-career highlight that brought a touch of gravitas to a man long relegated to the background. His life was marked by contradictions, a seemingly affable presence on screen, yet behind the scenes, Bill struggled with deep emotional isolation. Though he married and had children, including daughter Ginny, who later married actor Bob Newhart, there was a sense that Quinn always stood on the edges of intimacy, a guest in his own life. He bore quiet resentment for roles never given, and letters he wrote to old studio heads, pleading for just one more part, were never answered. On April 29, 1994, he passed away from natural causes just shy of his 82nd birthday, alone in a hospital bed, with only a nurse to hold his hand. No curtain call, no spotlight, just the hum of fluorescent lights as his final scene faded to black. Joe Higgins, born Joseph H. Higgins on July 12, 1925, in Logansport, Indiana, began his acting journey at the tender age of 9. He is best remembered for his role as Nils Swenson, the affable blacksmith in The Rifleman, and as Jake Shakespeare in Arrest and Trial, 1963 to 1964. Higgins' career spanned various television shows, including Gunsmoke, Bonanza, and The Monkees, and films like Flipper, 1963, and Flipper's New Adventure, 1964. Beyond acting, he earned a Ph.D. in aviation education and served in the U.S. Navy during World War II. His personal life saw 2 marriages, first to Bernadine DiDomenico, with whom he had 2 children, Brian and Valerie, and later to Jackie Higgins. Higgins passed away from a sudden heart attack on June 15, 1998, in Los Angeles at the age of 72. His ashes were scattered in the Pacific Ocean off the Channel Islands by his children, a poignant farewell to a life dedicated to performance and service. Patricia Blair, born Patsy Lou Blake on January 15, 1933, in Fort Worth, Texas, was a radiant presence in mid-20th century American television. Her portrayal of Lou Mallory, the enterprising hotel owner in The Rifleman, 1962 to 1963, added depth to the series' later seasons. Blair's career flourished with roles in films like Jump into Hell, 1955, and The Black Sleep, 1956, and she gained widespread recognition as Rebecca Boone in the NBC series Daniel Boone, 1964 to 1970. Despite her on-screen success, Blair's personal life was marked by challenges. She married land developer Martin S. Colbert in 1965, but the union ended in divorce in 1993, and Colbert passed away the following year. In her later years, Blair stepped away from acting, focusing on producing trade shows in New York and New Jersey. She battled breast cancer and passed away on September 9, 2013, at her home in North Wildwood, New Jersey, at the age of 80. What do you think about the passing of the actors from The Rifleman, and who do you miss the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our latest videos.